Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. So, yes, as Eric said, I'm the Crossref facilitator for our Books Advisory Group, and we're all part of that here. So, just a quick word or two about Crossref and books. It is our fastest growing content type and has been for quite some time. So, it's really an area that we try to keep a close eye on. And the Books Advisory Group, which is the somewhat sticky acronym of BAG, has been working on a best practices guide for a while, which we're actually just wrapping up. So I just want to point out that both the best practices and Crossref really sort of address and support all publishers of all types and all book types. It's certainly not just open access monographs. Books in general certainly share a number of issues and challenges. But why are we talking about open access monographs? I think it's very telling that this isn't even the only session on the discoverability of open content today. So it's clearly a popular topic. I've heard a lot about it already so far. And I always think of monographs as sort of needing a little bit more care and feeding than some other content types. Some other formats, they're not in the sort of context of a series. They're not widely assigned in classrooms, so they're sort of out there on their own and need a little bit more attention. So if we agree, and I hope we do, that metadata leads to discoverability, that it helps sort of shine a light on content, then I think it stands to reason that more and better metadata shines a bigger, brighter light and leads to better discoverability of that content. So I've sort of taken to thinking of monographs as like a plant that needs a lot of light to thrive, a lot of sunlight, So it's the best analogy I've come up with so far, so just go with me on it for now. So I'm going to talk a little bit about eBook platforms, which inevitably are always plural. And I should mention probably formats as well. And then some time on library workflows. But first, I just want to share, this is a little hard to look at maybe, but it's where DOI clicks come from. So this is outside of publisher content platforms. And it's a snapshot in time, but it's all of 2015 into 2016. So if you see, the names on the bottom, I hope you can see them. There's a number of library system vendors that are represented here, and abstracting and indexing services, and these, of course, all rely heavily on metadata. This is a project from Crossref called Chronograph. You can take a look at it if you want to play around a little bit more. So this is just one example I wanted to highlight. In full disclosure, in a previous life, I was a eBooks product manager at Springer, so I used one of their examples here. So the image on the top, there's multiple formats. Okay, so there's the eBook. It's available on PDF and an EPUB, and that is the Springer Link platform. So if you look down here in the corner where it says free preview, that's springer.com. So there's two Springer platforms before you even get into anything outside of the publisher realm. So there's the ebook there. You can buy it in hard copy, so another format, of course, and you can buy it in hard copy on Amazon as well. So I looked at this record in part because this particular title has what we would consider a best practice metadata record, and if you're interested in knowing how to look at Crossref metadata for an example, find me afterwards. I'm happy to show you that. But even for publishers that don't have maybe quite as complex a landscape, this still requires sending metadata in multiple formats. So in this case, you've got Crossref metadata, Onyx metadata, and MARC records for libraries. So there's a lot going on, and I sometimes sort of wag my finger, my librarian finger, I'm also a librarian, about metadata, but I do always want to recognize that it's not an easy thing to do, and it's not an easy thing to do well. So just a couple of things about what Crossref is working on, and these are all landing pages. So it's really a fairly simple concept, but hopefully it addresses a little bit of this distributed content situation. So multiple resolution we've had for a while, and this basically says, oh, you've clicked on this DOI link, like we saw on the previous slide. Where do you want to go to find it? It exists on a publisher platform. It exists on a society site or wherever. So just that interim landing page, and it sort of collects in one place where that content lives in various other platforms. So the rather mysteriously named co-access is sort of a similar project that we're working on. It's in development, and I have to thank Wendy and Frank for helping us test that. So it's sort of the same thing, content in more than one place. You know, you get a landing page, but this is actually a quite different proposition in many respects. So though it's one item, it will have multiple DOIs and multiple depositors of those DOIs. So that's a little bit different. A lot of conversation we can have around that, but I'm conscious of time, so I'll move quickly. The other thing that I'd actually like some feedback on, this is another landing page type project that we're working on. It's called Early Content Registration, and it really came about in the context of journals, but I'm wondering if or how it might be applicable for books. So the idea is that there's an intent to publish landing page, so that it's something that Crossref can host, and it at any point prior to publication, metadata can be deposited with us. A user can see that citation, and it basically says this publication is forthcoming. And I know that the long lead production time for books might mean that some publishers might not want to do it that far in advance, but I'm also wondering if maybe it can be incorporated easily into existing workflows. So I think Amazon still requires 4 months advance notice for their metadata. You know, maybe it's something that can be used in that. Again, I'm just looking for feedback on whether it's helpful or not. If we don't have time in Q&A, you can certainly contact me afterwards. So a word on library workflows. Like I said, another disclosure, I'm a librarian, so I'm biased in their favor. So these workflows, of course, were long based on selection, purchasing, or licensing. So somebody, an acquisitions librarian or an electronic resources librarian or director or whoever, would select content, find it, select it, and the purchase or the licensing of it would trigger a record in the library catalog. So I always, when I have the opportunity, give a shout out for metadata librarians, whatever they're called, catalogers, discovery systems librarians. Are there any librarians here? Oh, good. Raise your hands high. So find these people and buy them a drink later. That's my suggestion to you. And I say that because no matter what the content type is, whether it's purchased, whether it's open access, until those links are in the library catalog or in their discovery system, whatever systems they use, it's going to be that much harder for library users to find the content. So if you think back to the slide I showed, those DOI clicks, there are a lot of library systems in that list of top referrers, so it is really important for those libraries to get the records in there. And there are decisions to be made. It's not necessarily just slotting the records in. Do they want to include more than one link? There are multiple platforms, multiple formats. What's included in that record is a decision point that takes some consideration. So libraries may have an open access policy, libraries or their universities, that may help guide the selection, but the degree to which any selection is done may depend on the level of the institution. So there might be more selection done for a teaching institution than there might be for a research institution. So all of these things really need support, and I know it seems sort of counterintuitive that open access content might need this level of support, particularly with libraries, but it really does. Like I said, I've heard several times already so far in this meeting that discoverability of the content is really a challenge. So my parting wisdom, I hope, is to Make metadata part of the conversation. I believe that this is really important, and I encourage people to not be afraid to ask stupid questions. If you're a publisher and you have no idea what your metadata looks like, you're not alone. That's totally understandable. If you want to have an idea of what it looks like, you can talk to me or somebody at Crossref. We'd be happy to help with that. But I encourage you to talk to librarians if you're not already talking to the metadata librarians. I know they rarely get out to these conferences. I don't think there's any conference they attend in big numbers. They're really a fantastic resource. So make them part of the conversation. Talk to your vendors. Ask them about your metadata. Get some feedback on it. I think that's something that everybody can do. That's really a service to the content, whatever it is. So, thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Just a